Well, good morning. How's everybody? Everybody get coffee? You ready to go? This will be a furious ride, and I just want to make sure everybody's got their seatbelt on and had a cup of coffee this morning because we're off and running. So, Madam Secretary, how are you?
Fine. Good morning, Governor.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah.
And good morning to everybody. And Bill, thank you for that lovely introduction, and thank you so much for your service to the Commonwealth. We are fortunate to have you.
So Bill left out the fact that one of the great blessings we have in the Commonwealth is extraordinary people who put their hand up and said, I'll serve. And so, yes, Secretary Amy Gadara walked into my office after 40 million people sent me letters and said, you should hire Amy Gadara to be your Secretary of Education. And we had the most amazing conversation, and then we prayed over it, and here we are. And so thank you for your service. I just want to talk about Bill Hanson for a minute. We have a state board of education, and so much goes through the state board of education. And in fact, I think one of the challenges we ran into was so much had gone through the previous state board of education, and we needed great people. And boy, great people showed up. And so, Bill, I want to thank you for your tireless support in something that I'm not sure you knew how much time you were going to put in. But boy, you have made a giant difference. And so thank you on behalf of all Virginians.
Okay, so usually you do your lightning rounds at the end of a day or at the end of a conversation. We're going to do it in the morning to kick off. Right. There is an amazing agenda ahead of us today that really talks about all the really hot topics in education. And what we're going to provide, what the governor's going to provide, is a tasting menu for what you're going to be able to go back and really dive into with each course throughout the day. So we're going to start. Governor, I know that you wake up every single morning thinking about and being focused on how do we make Virginia the greatest place to live, to work, and to raise a family. Tell people, how does education fit into that?
Well, first and foremost, I wake up every morning and I start in quiet time because I need to first thank the Lord for putting me here, and then I need help. And then I thank Him, and I say, please, Lord, what should I do today, and how should I do it? And education is always top of the agenda. I mean, let's be clear. When we thoroughly analyze the elements that go into unleashing opportunity, to fulfilling the American dream, at the top of the list is education. Why? Because one, yes, we need to prepare people with skills and capabilities. But even more importantly, we need to infuse in them a confidence and the ability to trust that they can chase their dreams. And with that confidence comes the ability to innovate, to expand, to press envelopes, to create businesses, and of course to bring others along. And it's that cycle that in fact I believe has been broken and that we must fix. And it starts with re-infusing this expectation of excellence, of opportunity, and confidence that comes with an extraordinary education. And see, when I felt called into running for office, we were faced in 2021 in the Commonwealth of Virginia with an extraordinary set of challenges. At the top of the list was the clear fact that expectations of excellence had been eroded. They'd been watered down. And we found ourselves all of a sudden in a moment where students and parents and teachers and schools were all lacking this confidence, this expectation, and therefore the results were falling behind as well. That's what we walked into in 2022 when I was fortunate enough to be hired. Those of you that are Virginians, thank you for hiring me, because what an extraordinary privilege it is to go to work every day. And so that's why education is the foundational piece of everything we do. Yes, we're building a rip-roaring economy. Yes, we have to make sure our community is safe. Yes, we have to address the mental health challenges that are today, I think, one of the most challenging crises that we face. Yes, we have to make sure government runs more efficiently. Yes, we have to take care of God's green earth, because I'm a conservationist, which is at the heart of being a conservative, I believe. But at the end of the day, it all is enabled through providing and engaging in the best education that we can possibly offer our kids.
Amen. And as Education Secretary, I can't think of anything more important than education, so that's good. But we talk a lot about the fact that we're on the verge, not just in Virginia, but across this nation, of losing a generation of kids. Our data, and you all know I love my data, 2/3 of our 3rd through 8th graders are on risk of not being able to do math on grade level. And over half of our children 3rd through 8th grade can't read on grade level. That is not a foundation that we need our children to go into life with. And yet in Virginia, every single one of our schools is accredited, which means that we're telling parents, we're telling citizens, taxpayers, everything's okay, nothing to see here. So Governor, one of the next panels that's going to happen right after you and I get off the stage is about, have we hit the bottom in this country about thinking about accountability? And I'd love to hear you talk about why in Virginia we are focusing on accountability and transparency.
Well, that's where it begins. It begins with transparency, knowing where we are, because we can't know what to do until we know where we're starting. And we always talk about the fact that there's two really important points of orientation to understand: where we are, where we're going, and then how we're going to get there. And so step one is, where are we? And I just want to elaborate a little bit on something I just said. So there has been a trend in education to lower expectations. And we see it translated into decisions. And I can just tell you that we've watched the proficiency standards in the Commonwealth of Virginia for a period of time be reduced. Listen, what does that mean? Fewer correct answers on tests that translate into whether a student is proficient or not. Now, that is reducing standards. And Virginia went from having some of the top standards in the nation to having the lowest proficiency standards in the nation. You couple that with the accreditation process, where proficiency was reduced or watered down as one of the inputs into accreditation. And so what does that translate to? That translates to what we call an honesty gap. A gap between what is being told versus what's really happening. How do we see the honesty gap? Well, we saw it as the NAEP scores and our state SOL scores began to materially deviate. And all of a sudden, this big spot on a graph, and I'm an engineer, which I love graphs, really was clear. We've got a problem. And so we had to go to work. And you can't address complicated problems with simple answers. It has to be an aggregate, comprehensive solution. And it started first with recognizing that the standards had to be reset. And that gets to what is expected of children. What is expected of them? And so we have made our way through history and civics. We've made our way through math. We've made our way through reading. We've made our way through computer science, which includes AI. And now we're working our way through history. Through science. And the aggregation of that is not only what's expected, and I have to say one of the things I was most proud of is in our history of civics work, every student in Virginia will become very familiar, because they will be tested on it, with the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. This is really important. The second thing that we now are moving through now is that the definition of proficiency is being elevated. How many questions do you have to get right? So that we can really see where students are. This isn't a gotcha moment. It's a foundational moment to then translate into what are we going to do to address the challenges. And of course, the near-term example of that was what we saw coming out of the pandemic. We had a state that had reduced expectations in reading and math from top to bottom. We had a state where we saw an honesty gap. We had a state that was 44th in the nation in getting schools back open coming out of the pandemic. was it any surprise that the learning loss in Virginia in fourth graders in reading and math was the worst in the nation? No surprise. And so you have to go to work. And that's where Secretary Guerrero and the whole team reacted quickly with All in Virginia. We worked across the aisle with Democrat legislators and said, we must put a shock into this system. $430 million had been appropriated and was invested in intensive tutoring across the entire Commonwealth. Every single school division in 3rd through 8th grade now has intensive tutoring where students who are at risk or failed their SOLs now get intensive tutoring. What are we doing about chronic absenteeism? We've got to address this. How can students actually be proficient if they're never in school? And so these near-term actions were so important. And then finally, we've gone to work to really the foundational changes that are needed in changing our accreditation system. And the accreditation system has got two pieces to it. Yes, a very straightforward accreditation system. Are we complying with law? Do we have all the health and safety mechanics in place? But we also need a performance assessment system. Those are different. And how do we design a performance assessment system, which again isn't there to penalize, but there to move resources to support? And all of a sudden, that criteria changes materially from what we had before to one that incorporates the basic ideas of growth, of mastery, so that you are mastering a topic, not just taking a class. And then finally, readiness. Are we preparing students for the next step of their educational journey? This is a serious, serious change. And that's why I'm so excited about the comprehensive nature of what we've been undertaking in order to address what are just really serious problems. Virginia students not being ready. And so Secretary Guerrero, I know there's a lot more to talk about, and we could take the whole day on this topic. But I don't want to under-communicate the need for multifaceted approaches to address this most challenging issue in Virginia and America today. We've got to hit them all at one time, and then we've got to get them all moving at one time so that we can achieve real transformation as fast as we can.
Thank you. Talk about parents. We talk about parents a lot in Virginia. Why do they matter?
Okay, this is for all of the parents here. You know you matter. What did we all see? What we all saw was a clear moment of recognition that parents had found themselves in a different place in their children's educational journey than they might have thought they were in. And the crystallizing moment was the pandemic, where all of a sudden school came home and parents were told that a 12-inch screen was a quality education. Now let me begin. There's not a single topic that I will cover today or a comment that we will make that suggests anything other than massive admiration and support for teachers. They have the toughest or one of the toughest jobs in America. And therefore, that's why we've worked so hard on teacher pay in Virginia, where we were way behind, and now our own surveys show that we're at the national average and moving through the national average in teacher pay. But what we also know is that teachers were put in an impossible circumstance. But that allowed parents to see what was going on. And in Loudoun County, which became ground zero for the Parent Matter movement, Loudoun County parents stood up and said, wait a minute, we got to get our kids back in school. We've got to restore expectations of excellence. I want to make sure I have a visibility on what materials are being used in the classroom. I also want to make sure that I'm involved in my child's life before you're involved in my child's life. This was a very basic set of foundational beliefs. And that was really at the heart of a movement that started in Virginia. I'm very, very pleased to see that the movement moved around the country and people woke up. I'll reiterate, I think the toughest job in America is school board. It just is. It's really hard. I understand that, and oftentimes school board members are put in really tough positions. And I just encourage anyone that has any interest in public service, serve on a school board. But this is where we were. And we went to work right away. Through executive orders, we empowered parents to make decisions around their children's health and safety. Do they wear a mask or not? Through executive orders, we immediately cracked open transparency into curriculum so that parents would have the ability to not just see what's in the curriculum, but also to make decisions about elements of that curriculum that may be totally inconsistent with their family values and ask for replacement, particularly around sexually explicit materials. I wanted to make sure parents were fully informed. I signed an executive order that mandated in the Commonwealth of Virginia, if there is a drug overdose that is related to a school, the entire school division has to be notified in 24 hours of that overdose so that parents can have the discussion at their dinner table about what's going on in their school. Can you imagine a moment where there's been 12 overdoses in a little under 2 weeks in one school, and parents weren't told? And the reality, of course, is the top reason for those overdoses are counterfeit fentanyl drugs. Something sold as Percocet that is really fentanyl. And kids need to know, and parents need to tell them. Amy, it's a journey. You know this. One of, I think, the real encouraging factors on both our expectations of excellence, being able to raise the ceiling and the floor in the Commonwealth of Virginia at one time, and working to empower parents and put them back at the head of the table, but to do it in the recognition that the most powerful combination of influences on a child's life are engaged parents and spectacular teachers. And we have made huge progress. We've moved up 10 points in the Power Empowerment Index, the Parent and Power Index. The Educational Entrepreneur Index in 2024 has us in top 10 in states. Those are huge moves. And we've been able to do that in a state that, for those of you who live in Virginia, listen, we're pretty purple. And we work across the aisle a lot in order to drive forward an agenda together that is really based on one common belief, that education's at the core of all opportunity.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes left, and I want to ask 2 quick questions that I think really matter. One is, talk about why we're trying to change this one-size-fits-all approach in Virginia and ensure that there's opportunity for all and access to excellence.
So every child is uniquely endowed by a creator, it's my belief, and therefore every child has different strengths and different weaknesses. And therefore every child will have a different educational journey in order to unlock those gifts. And unfortunately, our education system really began to gravitate towards one size fits all. And everybody does this and this and this, and then they do that, and then they do that, and then they do that. Oftentimes culminating in immense pressure to go to a 4-year university. And we felt very strongly that we needed to run to the children's capabilities and empower parents, along with great teacher involvement, to choose a path that specifically appeals to that child. Now, what that begins with is foundation. And so we passed the Virginia Literacy Act starting in K through 3rd grade in order to make sure every child in the Commonwealth of Virginia can read. How about that for a basic concept? Everyone's going to be able to read, and we're going to make sure that, in fact, we use the most advanced understanding about how to teach a child to read as we possibly can. And of course, the Virginia Literacy Act has now been expanded from 3rd grade to 5th grade. Now it's going to 8th grade, which is so important. Training, reading specialist. When my jump shot was off in college, I went and got a shooting coach. Well, if you're having trouble reading in 2nd grade, you need a reading coach. You need some help. Foundational. Second, of course, is the standards and the curriculum that we've all been working through. But most importantly is to recognize that every child will have a unique path. And so infusing the ability to pick within the public school system from our lab school network is so important. We've had this great breakthrough on lab schools in Virginia, and it's a real debate, and I get it. This is new, this is different. Innovation sometimes comes with skeptics, but it works. We have a family of lab schools now, cresting over 15 in process, that range from everything from healthcare dedicated lab schools in partnership with universities that focus on healthcare curriculum, so we can have radiology techs and brain surgeons starting in 9th grade going through school. I can't wait to see a space school open up on Wallops Island where we can have engineers and, of course, rocket techs all trained up in high school, and they can go off and do what they want to do. We're seeing lab schools present themselves on the marine trades. So again, if you want to be a welder or you want to design nuclear submarines, you can come through a lab school. Really exciting stuff. But creating these multiple pathways is so important, and I don't want to limit it just to K through 12. And so we've involved our community college system, 23 community colleges around the Commonwealth of Virginia, to do something very important called blurring the lines. So dual enrollment, so that students in high schools can pursue a credential so they can go get a job right out of school, or they can attain college credit so that they can shorten their college journey, or they could even get an associate's degree. This flexibility, coupled with empowering parents, translates to what I think is best-in-class opportunity in education.
1 minute answer.
I don't know if I can do that.
I know, but I can't let you get off the stage without this moment. You've spent a lot of time with our college presidents. We have a council of presidents that you have met with on a quarterly basis since day one. And this focus on creating a vibrant learning environment, and one that's safe, secure, and vibrant, has been a priority of yours at the post-secondary level. Can you talk about why, in this moment especially, it matters?
Can I get 90 seconds?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay? I'm going to get in trouble. All right.
I think that there are two topics that are constantly conflated. The first is freedom of expression on campuses, particularly in college. And what we, of course, learn as we survey and speak and listen is that there has been a real culture, which is oftentimes called cancel culture on college campuses. If you don't conform to whatever the groupthink is on college campuses, you can be ostracized by your friends, you can in fact be penalized in the classroom, and it changes your whole college experience. And so we held literally a summit on freedom of expression at University of Virginia, by the way, not to go unsaid, because Thomas Jefferson founded that university, and we wanted to start right there where freedom of expression truly was written in words that will forever, ever protect us, and our First Amendment with Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. It's just so important. And what, of course, we talked about was every university, every college having a real action plan to change the receptivity to freedom of expression on their college campuses. Now, what gets conflated with that is the ability to condemn, intimidate, interrupt, build tent campuses, and exercise religious bigotry. And there are bright lines. And we have to recognize that, as my wife would say, this is a parenting moment where there just needs to be real leadership. Leadership that says that we are going to protect this foundational principle to America, freedom of expression, but we are not going to facilitate hate speech, intimidation, religious bigotry. And if they will actually understand that, then America is fulfilling, I think, part of its greatest calling, which is to facilitate differing opinions and have them expressed. The journey we've been on with our universities has, I think, been one grounded in relationship. I'm told I'm the only governor to meet with the university presidents every quarter. I have no idea why that's true, but I meet with them every quarter. They are literally the point of our public university system. I want to know what they're thinking, what their challenges are. I want to tell them what I'm thinking and what I expect from them. Sometimes they agree, oftentimes they don't. But it all starts with relationship. And that relationship enables us to take on tough topics. Tough topics like, how do we facilitate true freedom of expression on college campuses, and yet clearly understand where we are seeing gross violations of some of the most important aspects of freedom of religion and safety that we can possibly be responsible for in our college campuses. Such an important topic. We could go for another 30 minutes. I won't. But thank you. If I could say, again, where I started, there's no single bill. There's no cure-all policy. This is a topic, educating our young people, unlocking opportunity, giving them the confidence to take on both the challenges and the opportunities that this most great country offers. And we're not going to fix education with a single bill. It requires a comprehensive set of strategies, execution, and redirecting when things aren't working, or re-emphasis when things are. And at the heart of that is all of you, and you, bringing a passion and a commitment that I know we don't all agree on everything, but we agree on one thing. Education is really important, and we all aspire to make it the very best we possibly can. And so I want to thank you for committing your time, which is really the most valuable resource we have, and your expertise to making America's education system the envy of the world. And we know we have work to do to get there. And so God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
Awesome.
I just want to say thank you, Governor. It takes leadership, and that's what you show every single day on this. And many of you in the room know that I've waited 35 years to work for the best education governor in the country, and I hope you see it was worth the wait. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.